Hey guys, welcome to our last video, I guess, right? This is our reveal video. It's the best one by far. We're gonna start with showing you our logwood results, and then Tina and I are gonna show you some of our favorite results, and including our dye bath number 1. So that's the original, where you put in your dye source, bring it to a boil, almost to a boil, like right at, then let it simmer for an hour. And then all this stuff has soaked overnight, washed it, rinsed it, used our pH neutral soap, all of that stuff. So the reason we have it in 2 piles here is because both Tina and I sat here for hours making bundles upon bundles upon bundles. And so we had a lot of variation in our bundles, including how much stuff was in them. This one is Tina's and this is mine. Both of these went into the exact same bath for the exact same amount of time. Washed, rinsed, and dried the exact same way. And look at the variation just between these 2 bundles in the same bath. So I had fewer, and I think that probably made a big difference as the dye was able to permeate all of the items really, really well. And in fact, logwood is one of our favorites. We've been using it in each of our Mad Matter workshops and every time we've gotten together to dye. And this is the first time we got this dark.
Yep.
So we've had a lot of other results, a lot of these purples, and then we've had browns before, but more like this one here, if you can see it. Yeah, we're zoomed in nicely. But so this is this is my lot.
Right, DeeDee's is brown, and
Super
mine is
brown.
more of the bluish, dark purple, the range. But yeah, it's really interesting. You can see some of the brown actually and this is what's interesting. So this was the sari that I had wrapped around it, and this part, which was hanging out in the dye bath, is brown, and this is what was tied up against the bundle. So I am suspecting that the pieces that were close to the bundle were the purple, and the pieces on the outside were the brown.
Where they got more of the dye bath soaking into their fibers,
right?
Their cells.
But this is what, you know, I love looking at these. These have been drying overnight, and you can see the color is still pretty intense on these. And I mean, this is very obvious. So you can see in the center of my bundle, it was tied, you know, pretty tight. So the dye was not able to permeate into the center of all of these pieces. But I love that variation of color. It's almost a tie-dyed type of look.
Yeah, like that. It's that resist effect we were talking about. And we have some really great examples of that in some of our other bundles. We really wanted you to see like this with fewer stuff where the dye can really get in. You know, your results can be varied for sure. So where this one's a lot more brown and a lot more purple. We also kept going with the logwood through some of the other videos that you saw. And we did some variations. So we had some additives, and we have this one here is, thank you, logwood with lemon. And the one on, let's see, left to right, right? Left is the logwood with rust. So these, when you lay them out next to each other, yeah, and if Tina gets out her original.
So you can see they did lighten up. And again, this would have been a second bath plus a modifier.
Right.
So you can tell these are a lot deeper than these. So it did lighten up to a beautiful purple. The shades are gorgeous, and I mean, look at this tag.
Here's some more of that resist we were talking about. There was a piece of lace just laying flat up against this, and it has so much variation to it, and you can see some of the lighter purples working through. Oh, and here I can talk about this real quick. So we talked about laying papers against the edge of your dye bath. You can also just half submerge your whole bundle so that the dye will sort of travel up and then leave parts of it white. Like, look at how incredible that is. And so the bundle was sitting in the dye bath like this. So it was submerged up to here, and then it traveled up a little bit. You'll see some other examples of that too. But as far as the additives go, this one with the rust got a little bit more reddish to it, I think, and then this one had a tiny bit more blue. Now these hues are pretty close together.
Yeah, I would say there's not a big difference between these two.
But we've got some to show you that do have a big difference.
Right, and we have in the past with logwood again put different modifiers in there
yeah.
with baking soda and lemon juice, and have actually gotten some pretty significant differences. So again, I think it just depends on your dye bath. I think we had a lot of logwood to begin with. and it overtook the dye bath. So
yeah, we put a lot of logwood in there.
So I think that is probably why we didn't see a lot of variation.
All right. Do you want to pick? You want to go madder next?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I have here regular madder root, and that is what our workshop is named after, Mad Madder. And so this is our first time using it, and we are so in love with it. We have the most amazing range of this like brick red, orangey, almost like a little bit of a coral tint to it. Oh, and here's the feathers we were talking about.
Feather is glorious.
So they puff back up. All you have to do is just give them a little shake, pull their little tufts out, and then, I mean, you saw they were like so gross when you pull them out of the water, but they are beautiful. And we have had such good luck with all of these, taking each and every dye just wonderfully.
So you can see again from a variety, certain surfaces and materials took it differently. So the paper, and we saw this actually consistently through most of our dye baths.
We did.
The paper took the dye the strongest. It's the most intense on, you know, the tags, the paper, even the little tags that we put in here, consistently across all the dye baths, it was the most intense. And then depending on, you know, wool to cotton to raw wool.
Here's the silk, which tended to be really incredible.
So you can see the different varieties. This was just a piece of strapping. It's probably a cotton strapping. So, you know, it took it pretty well. And I actually put some of this measuring tape. I cut little sections. Some of the dye baths, it didn't color at all, but the madder, it really did change the color, and I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's very muted. I like that a lot.
Right.
So very, like, sort of, we keep going towards the term like brick red, not as dark as brick red tends to be, but it just has that hue, that sort of jewel tone almost to it.
So here, keep that up for a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to show you some modifiers. So this was a pretty extreme one. So this is matte. So this was the original dye bath. No modifiers. This is madder. And we got a little crazy.
We
put
intense.
Baking soda, lemon juice, and rust. So you can see what variations in color you can totally get from one dye bath. It was the same dye bath. This was the original. After we pulled that out, we took part of that dye bath and modified it with everything. We kind of put everything with the kitchen sink in here. So it has baking soda, lemon juice, and rust. And this is still a beautiful color range, but you can see the difference.
You can see how they're still in the same family as far as like jewel tone, sort of earthiness goes. Very like more brick red and vibrant. And this is like blushy, right? Like, like blushed cheeks. Like it's just so gorgeous, and I love this tag. It's all just so good.
So that is madder. So what do we have next?
Let's see. Did you pull? What do you have? Kamala?
Yep.
We're showing you our favorites.
So Kamala is another one that we've not ever used before. It's a dye stuff that you can purchase. But we were so impressed with the color.
This is on the side is the straight Kamala, the very first bath. And you can see there are some wool fibers, some buttons. Here's a piece of the silk cocoon. And then that duck cloth, which is 100% cotton, very canvas-like, has great texture. Really, really soaked up that color. And the wool was a little bit muted, but still really nice.
But this is very sunshine yellow. Yeah. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous tone of color. So to give you an idea of our... You want to keep yours out and I'll put this away?
Yeah.
Modification to the Kamala. This was another one that we kind of put everything in, including the kitchen sink into it, because we just had a lot of fun with the different dye baths. So again, this is Kamala with baking soda, lemon juice, and rust. So you can see it drastically change the color again. This is more almost like tea colored.
Yeah,
antique paper colored.
Right.
But you can see the variation in color. Again, using the same dye bath. This is just the second dye bath from it with the modifiers.
These are the exact same pieces from the exact same bolt of fabric, and in fact it's the same Kamala. This one just has modifiers and this was straight Kamala. It's just amazing.
Yep. All right, what do we have next?
Did we do... I have here blueberry, alkanet, hibiscus, avocado, and beetroot. That's what I have left.
So I have the Zillwood, black, and that was it for
Okay.
the modifiers. So if
That's
you want
right.
to show those
Yeah.
ones. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna pop into just some of our favorites, specifically some different colors and dye stuffs and dye pots that we've been working with. I'm gonna start with alkanet, which tends to, well, in this dye pot, I'm going to say, tended to be a very sort of muted, like gray brown tone, which is great because it's not like coffee or tea, and then it has a purple hue to it. So here is some muslin and my watercolor paper. Oh, and that's the other thing too, right? Like, you gotta flip things over, because here's that gorgeous resist from the twine that I used to tie it up, and then the other side is very variegated and has good stuff. Here's that cute little tag. The lace, the crocheted lace, vintage lace is awesome. And cheesecloth and gauze. We always pop some of that in there. It just soaks up so well.
And like DeeDee said, this is actually, I really do like alkanet. Even though the color isn't as intense and bright as some of the other ones, the variation is incredible. So back to the, it's almost like a mocha with a light lavender tone. So you can see on just this one piece of fabric, there is a little string of lavender here, and look at the wool. It totally picked up the lavender versus the tag, which took up the brown. But those two together are just gorgeous.
And then the button, like, so this side has, it's not like the wood it was when it went in. It was a lot warmer when it went in, and now it has sort of a cool tone to it. It's got this purple edge to it here. It's just so good. Alkanet is one of my favorites too, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, not I think, it is. That's why I brought it over here. I want to show blueberry.
All right.
Okay.
Let me go get my blueberries.
Absolutely. Blueberry has always been and will always be one of my favorites. So when we first started doing this together, we tried blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries, I think, and all of them are really good. But they ended up being kind of similar in tone, and so we decided to go with blueberries. And Tina mentioned in the beginning, we pick them up when they're on sale, pop them in the freezer, we can use them forever. Look at this. The tones that come from blueberry are so varied and all over the place. We get to pull some very dark, almost navy, sort of Payne's gray blues, and then they get like a smack of purple in them, and it is just so cool. This is a piece of watercolor paper. Here's a piece of muslin. Here are some more of those, well, one silk cocoon, and on this side you can see where it really soaked up the dye and then has all this variation to it. And I always throw in some netting and then the twine, of course, to tie it.
And I think what's interesting is DeeDee's bundle picked up more of a denim-y blue, where mine, I mean, look at this variety. You got some of the pink from the blueberry, all in the same piece. So it's more on the purpley realm of color.
Yeah.
And then you also get
very
some
blueberry.
Yeah, very blueberry. I can't.
Yeah.
There's no other word to describe it besides blueberry.
Absolutely.
It's because blueberry is like a combination of purple and blue together.
Yep.
So you can see it a lot in here. You see these little marks that you couldn't create if you wanted to, but some of my pieces really picked up more of the purple, especially these tags, and she was more of the blue.
And we were chatting a little bit about that too, because as much as we've been doing this and we think we know, we don't know. So we were thinking that where it got more purple, it may be closer to the oxygen, to the surface, and it may have even been just like resting on the surface where it's soaking up the dye from underneath, but the top is oxygenating, because that's a thing also. In fact, there are some dyes we talked about that we don't get into that can be toxic, but they change 100% when you pull them out of the bath into the oxygen.
And also, like DeeDee was saying earlier in this video, when we're putting bundles in there, sometimes the pieces that are to the surface, depending on how the pigment is pulling up into that bundle, maybe the purple part of that pigment is what was pulling up first, and then the blue part is what was sinking to the bottom. So play with that. I would totally
Definitely.
recommend putting your bundles in at different angles, different depths, because then you can get a variety of colors.
Right. And make your bundles different sizes. But we talked about, you know, including different materials and all the materials that can and will work and some that you should experiment with. But also make them thicker and thinner and roll them up and lay them on top of each other and just have fun experimenting, because, man, things change between each and every piece that we do, and we've dyed together, what, almost a dozen times now, and each time it's...
And we did find out I actually roll my bundles, and these are nice and on top of each other, so...
Do you want to show one of yours?
That could be why we have such a variety, too. So yeah, let's show Brazil wood.
Okay, let me get mine.
So Brazil wood is one of those colors. We've dyed with it before, and it never disappoints. It's such a gorgeous, deep hue, and I mean, words can't even describe kind of what you're seeing on the camera right now. Like, this is as intense as it is on the camera.
Yeah, it is just like a punch in the face.
Right, and Brazil wood has obviously this fuchsia colored purple or pink, but it also has this orange undertone to it. So you can pick up some oranges in your pieces, and some of mine did pick up that. You can see it a lot in the silk cocoon. It's more of the orangey color scheme than it is the fuchsia. And look how deep, and I think this goes back to DeeDee's bundles are bundled differently and probably less material. Mine were wrapped up. So hers are definitely really deep, intense color.
Yes.
In this feather. Oh,
I know. And look, it has a little bit of the orange that she's talking about in the bottom part, and then gets into that really pink intense. It's just, it really is glorious. And again, flip things over. You never know what they're going to look like on the back. Like, look at this. It's like I painted it. Like, it's so heavy on the back.
It's very opaque.
Yeah. It really is.
So if you want to see another, wow, this is different. I'll keep this one out. So this is Brazil wood with lemon and rust. So this is another one of those, you can't even believe it comes from the same dye bath. So look at this, look at this. It's not the same.
They truly, this is what we mean by those modifiers. Like, you got to play with them and test them out, and sometimes you mix them up and see, and don't be nervous, because we, even looking at it, we're like, well, yeah, I guess we'll put a bundle in that, and then we got this, and we were like, oh
so
my gosh.
Look at this. Just don't even think about this one right now. Look at this. This is Brazil wood with lemon and rust. Just in one bundle, I got purples, yellows, browns, lilacs, creams. Like, it's crazy. When I pulled this bundle out, I could not even believe my eyes. But then when you compare it to what the original dye bath is, so this is a great example of what modifiers can do. And it really, you don't have to invest a lot in your dye bath sources. You can stick to a few of your favorites and really vary the color range that you get.
We do have a big selection to show you, and we're not going to show them all on video, but we will have a sheet for you to look at with all of the information that we've recorded doing this. And I think it has like 20 colors, 20-some colors on it for you to look at. And then, you know, when we added modifiers, things changed. So that information is there for you to just, pick a couple of your favorites and then play with. Of course, eventually, if you want to try 20, 30, 40 colors, absolutely. But you don't have to start with such a large range. That's one of the things about this that we wanted to provide, was a great resource for you to go to pick and choose to find the hues that you want for any given project. Because you don't have to do it on a huge scale. Right. You can do one or two and, you know, have a set, like have a great package of stuff to work on your next project with.
Yep. All right, so the next one we're going to show you is lac. And I can't remember if we've used lac before. I don't think we have.
I don't think so either.
So it's similar to Brazil wood and similar to some of the other colors. Is that your Brazil wood?
Yep, that's my Brazil wood.
But it's more wine. So this was more like a cranberry tone. This is, I think, more wine.
I think so too.
So if you can see the two together here, you can see the slight difference, but it's well, you can really see it in this.
It's in the same family, but certainly it's like richer. It's just like so deep, this color.
Yeah, you can see it on my mixed media or watercolor paper how dark, and this is definitely more of a wine, and you can see it a lot on that as well.
Yeah.
So this, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the silk really picks up that wine color really well, where even like the more cottony type stuff tended to go a little bit more towards the purpley version.
And this really didn't wash out much when we were rinsing it. It stayed true to the color when we pulled it out of the dye bath. It really stayed true to it. I want to share this because one thing I had in a lot of my bundles was this little piece of silk, and I wasn't quite sure if it would dye. And in some pieces, the only thing that really dyed was the embroidery on the tip. But I mean, on this white surface, look at that. That is, I cannot wait to create with this.
And I'm glad you mentioned about the bath, because about when you're rinsing, because sometimes when you rinse, a lot of the color will come out. And even using the Steadfast, the mordants, the alum that we did, some of our baths really rinsed, and even though they were super, super intense, then they mellowed out a bit. And that's okay, right? Because you're going to figure that out and make notes. You should always make notes when you're playing and experimenting.
And you'll notice that a lot more, I think, in subsequent dye baths, where the color looks pretty bright, but when you go to rinse it, it will rinse it out. But you're reusing that dye bath and pulling more of the pigment and dye out of that bath, so it's kind of expected. You're exhausting it a lot faster.
Right. So, and that's if you're, so subsequent dye baths, if you use it more than once. So you've used it once, you've got a good pull from it, and then you're coming back for a second try.
So to show you a modifier, now this is not as extreme as we saw with Brazil wood, but you can still see the variation in color. So this was lac. So this is the original dye bath. This is lac with lemon. So it really softened up the lac color. So if you like those soft pinks, but yet you have amazing variation. Like this sari to me is so gorgeous because you have the darker original wine color plus this light pink all in the same sari. The tag is the same.
That tag is just...
So I had resist on the back of this tag from this piece of lace. It was laying on top of it, and you know, you can't do that on purpose. That's just by happen chance. So
absolutely.
The other thing too, so we had mentioned we use these color catch dryer sheets. We were so impressed. I would totally recommend you get a box of these and use them in your dye pots, because my thought process behind it totally held true, where their purpose in a dryer is to catch color off of your clothes. So if you're going to put it in a dye bath, it's going to absorb that color.
They're super affordable. They come in a big box. There's what, like 50 in that box probably?
Yeah, I think so.
There's a lot, and we could cut them in half.
Right. So I would recommend that, and they are strong. It's not like, you know, they're a tissue white type of material. It's pretty substantial, and you could sew with this. You could put it in, I don't know, you could do it in so many things, but every single bundle that we had this in took the dye gorgeous.
Yes. I want to show beetroot, and do you know why? Because I hated it in the dye bath, and I hated it when we rinsed it, and now it's my favorite package. And that is crazy to me, because I am a very like it or leave it type of person. If I see something, I'm like, you know what? Nope, I don't like it. I walk by. I'm not great at thinking about future potential. And so I just kept going with it because Tina told me to quit being a wuss. And look at this. The color, well, first of all, you have to see it piled up because that is just absolutely delicious. And this is beetroot, and we've used beets in the past. This was our first time using beetroot, and we definitely got a more muted sort of palette from it. But
yeah, we thought we would get beet color, like beet color is what we kind of thought, so we were surprised. I had not used the beetroot before either, but you know what? It was picking up some of the pink.
Yes.
Like you would get some of the pink, like this.
Yep, and it's kind of like a lipsticky pink color, and then it looks a little bit like tea dye, but having them both mixed together, I think, is what makes it so exciting. Because we talked about that too, like if it looks like tea or looks like coffee or something like that, those are so easy to do yourself and not go through so much work. But when they're variegated like this, when you get the variety in one bath on one piece and the work is done, it's just awesome.
Right.
Just awesome.
So I'm going to show, oh my gosh, we could keep going.
I know, one more.
And you know what? We do have some more neutral colors. We did black walnut, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones.
Black bean.
Black bean. Some of the kind of avocado, the old standbys. Those are pretty predictable. But this is one that's not. We've not ever dyed with hibiscus before. And in doing some of our own research, hibiscus can be pretty temperamental. And you can get a lot of variety out of the hibiscus, depending on how you modify it, what the pH level is, how you put a mordant or you don't mordant.
Right.
Like you can have almost a rainbow of colors with just hibiscus flowers. So
I was gonna say, I think we've said before, but hibiscus, so sometimes you use the root, sometimes you use the leaves, and in this case we use the actual flower petals. And they were dried, but then when we boiled them, they came back to life.
So in our bundle, so again, this was all one bundle for me. You can see this gorgeous dusty pink rose color. But we also have grays.
Yep.
We have
sort of
an orangey,
like
peachy,
dusty,
color. I mean, the color care sheet picked up weird circles. I don't know what caused it, but you can see all of them in one piece. And then it also had blue tones.
Yes, like we have these blue splotches.
Right, so it's crazy. If you get a chance, I would also recommend hibiscus. You may get frustrated with it because you want to try to do one thing and it's going to have its own mind and do something else, but that's part of the fun of this, is you never know.
Right.
So hibiscus is one of those sources where you can get a variety, and oh my gosh, this
Look at your feather.
Wait a minute, this is my feather. I don't know what you're talking about.
No.
Look how beautiful
but look at your button.
it looks.
look at your button. It's like got pink and then it just fades in, fades away as it goes in. That's
but
so
look at
nice.
how yours took it.
I know, it's intense. Yeah. Just
So-
do it.
Yeah.
It's such good stuff, you guys. Like we're so glad you decided to join us because we love this so much and we keep going back to it too. We haven't gotten tired of it. That's the other thing. Like, you can keep trying new things. You can keep going to old things, and each time they turn out different. It keeps on giving.
Right. So I hope you enjoyed everything. I hope
too.
you enjoyed the reveal. I hope you enjoyed the process. And I cannot wait to see what colors you were able to achieve. And maybe you have some tips on how you were able to modify things that, either DDI or the group can use for their dye pots too.
Yep. And always let us know if you have any concerns or questions, and we'll get those answered. And we hope to have a great dye pot community going.
Yep. So
Thanks
hope you
for
joined.
joining us.
Bye.
Bye.